What if dying wasn't the end? What if every time you died, you came back moments before your death, but remembered everything that happened? That's the central idea behind the Drifter. What initially looks like a fairly straightforward pixel art point-and-click adventure turned out to be much more than I expected. Because after 100% completing it, I think the Drifter is one of those games that's deceptively deep. There's a lot going on underneath the surface. One of the first things that surprised me was just how good the Drifter sounds. The entire game is fully voice acted, and the quality of the performances is genuinely impressive.
Anyway, I finally got the cops to admit they'd taken you to hospital. The rest you know.
Shit,
Hey, you can fuck off again if you want to.
What? No, of course I'll help.
I honestly can't remember the last time I played a pixel art point-and-click adventure with voice acting this good, if I've even played one before. It makes a bigger difference than you might expect. The characters feel alive, and the performances give the story real weight, especially when the game deals with its heavier moments. Visually, I love what the game was going for. The pixel art has a gritty, almost grimy feel, and the game isn't afraid to tackle hard subjects. Their heaviness matches that aesthetic really well. Thankfully, the actual investigation is just as satisfying. Most of the time you're exploring, looking for clues, talking to people, and figuring out your next move. There's a bar at the top of the screen that reminds you what you're currently investigating. It's a small thing, but it gives you just enough direction so you rarely feel completely lost without simply telling you what to do. And that's the best way to describe the puzzles in general. They aren't particularly difficult, but they make sense. You collect items, combine them, and use them intuitively once you grasp what the game wants. It delivers that exact moment you want from a point-and-click adventure, where everything clicks into place and you think, oh, of course, that makes sense. Solving puzzles isn't necessarily challenging, but it is consistently rewarding. If you're a completionist, the Drifter is pretty easy 100%. There are only a couple of missable achievements, so I'd recommend looking up a guide if you're trying to get everything. The game also gives you 5 save slots, so it's easy to keep a few saves around, especially at the beginning of chapters. That way, if you miss something, you don't have to replay the whole game. Other than those few missables, there's really not much standing between you and that 100%. But the easy completion isn't really why this game stuck with me. All of that is really just setting the stage for what ended up being my favorite part of the game. The story. It grabs you immediately. Mick is returning home for his mother's funeral, but before he can even get there, a random passenger on his train is shot. Suddenly, a simple trip home spirals into something much bigger. Shortly after, we learn what makes Mick different. He can't die. Whenever he's killed, he comes back moments before his death, but he remembers everything that happened. The game uses this idea as more than just a way to explain retries. Mick's condition becomes a huge part of the mystery itself. Death is no longer the end of a situation. In some cases, it's another clue. You can experience something you couldn't possibly survive, come back, and use what you learned to figure out your next move. As the story goes on, this ability starts feeling like something much heavier than a cool supernatural power. As we learn about Mick, we learn about his past and the life he left behind. Underneath the mystery and the violence, the game tackles genuinely heavy subjects. Grief, loss, the death of someone close to you, and what it means to keep carrying those experiences with you. I won't spoil the specifics, but multiple plot turns went in directions I never expected. The voice acting makes those moments hit even harder, bringing incredible emotion to these characters when things get personal. It takes a simple looking pixel art adventure, gives its protagonist an almost ridiculous ability to return from death, and uses that idea to tell a surprisingly human story. It's a game about death, where dying isn't necessarily the end, and somehow, that makes the part about loss and grief feel even more meaningful. The Drifter ended up being a much more satisfying experience than I ever expected. It's a great point-and-click adventure, with an investigation that feels good to play, puzzles that make sense without being frustrating, and a pixel art style that creates a really strong atmosphere. But what really makes it stand out is everything underneath that. The story is much better than I expected, there are great twists along the way, and the voice acting is genuinely fantastic. That's why I think the Drifter is deceptively deep. It doesn't look like the kind of game that's going to stay with you. But by the time the credits rolled, I didn't just learn what happened to Mick, I understood why he couldn't let it go. If you're a fan of narrative-driven mystery thrillers, point-and-click detective games, or just appreciate a dark story brought to life by phenomenal voice acting, this is absolutely a game you should pick up. Whether you play games casually for the story, or love hitting that 100% completion mark, it's an experience well worth your time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Soma signing off.